cool. That was the period. Yeah. Hi, I'm Phil Colgan. I am a performer, instructor, and choreographer born and raised in New York City. So my Hamilton audition process was extensive. I started auditioning for it my senior year of college when they were moving from off-Broadway to Broadway. It was my first set of callbacks. And then to make a very long story very short, it was 2 years, 8 callbacks, and a week-long boot camp later that I got the job. I was in for every iteration and kept getting notes, kept getting feedback, kept being told it was a piece to the puzzle, but they don't know where that piece fits. So it was definitely a lesson in patience and knowing when something's right for you. But thankfully I did the boot camp process, which they hire a full ensemble of people to learn the show, and you're hired by the show for the week, and you learn 4 big numbers from the show. The creative team comes in and out, casting comes in and out, just to gauge where you fit into the world. So after that, thankfully it was a quick turnaround, because some people wait months after, some people wait years after, and I had to wait 2 days, and I thankfully got the call that I would be swing and dance captain of the new tour going on. I don't remember much about my first show with Hamilton. I was a swing, so I made my debut about 2 weeks after we opened, and it was planned, thankfully, so I had time to prepare. It was the track I'd been focusing on. I covered 6 tracks in that show, as well as being dance captain, but the first one I debuted was definitely one of the harder ones that I had to do, just in the grand total of the tour. And it was a 2-show day, so by the end of it, I was definitely exhausted because my body just wasn't ready and conditioned for that just yet. But I remember taking a moment when the show started. I would wait on stage, but like to the side, leaning against a wall and just snapping for the first minute of the show. And I remember taking in that moment and being like, remember where you are, you worked really hard for this. Take this in, because from here on in, like, you're gonna have to focus really hard and be one step ahead of yourself the whole time. And then I just remember the lights went down 3 hours later at the end of the show, and I just like keeled over and then like quickly stood back up for the bow, because I just felt like what an accomplishment it was to get through it that first time, because it did feel like a crazy mountain to climb. But thankfully I look back on it fondly. The basic responsibilities of a dance captain are to maintain the artistic integrity of the show. Job includes giving notes to performers, to maintain the choreographer's vision, running understudy and swing rehearsals, putting new company members into the show, along with a bunch of other little things. Dance captaining a show as specific yet as amorphous as Hamilton is a real challenge, because it's so stylized and it's so individualized, and it fits into everybody's personal essence in such a different way. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that there are different ways to interpret the same story, but a note that you're gonna give to one person is not the same as a note you're gonna give to another person in that show. It's not as black and white as, hey, your arm needs to be at a 45-degree angle here. And like, yes, those moments exist in the show, but not to the extent that they would in any other. The dance captain responsibility there is understanding how each individual person who comes into the show, or is in the show, or goes in as a swing, or anything, what their essence provides to the thing, and making sure that it doesn't detract from where the audience needs to be looking. But the challenge I found was figuring out how each individual person fits into the puzzle, and how one person being on or not on will change the temperature of it, and what you have to gauge in those specific tracks or whatever. So it was really interesting trying to figure that out, especially when it's so detailed, and like there's 21 people on stage and there's 15 different entrances and exits on stage, and 2 turntables that go opposite each other or same of each other. So learning the show was really a long process for me as well. Even when I left the show after 2 years, I didn't feel like I knew everything. I knew a lot, but I didn't know everything. So it definitely felt like a cartoon-like stack of papers on a desk that I just kept trying to like read more of. But I loved that. That was a really fun challenge to have to tackle. Telling the story of tonight. So I think a good dance captain has to be hardworking, has to be willing to go over and above and beyond for what they want to do, because it is a lot of hard work and it's a lot of extra homework. In the beginning of the tour, I was up until like 2 a.m. doing notes and studying everybody's notes to make sure I knew what I was even talking about, because I didn't know the show. I started, the same day as everybody else, so I had so much catch up to do with my co-dance captain. I think a good dance captain has to understand people. I think it is a PR job first and foremost, because if you don't know how to communicate the things you want out of people, and you don't understand how someone's going to take in information, you're never going to get to do your job well. And There's like 90 million ways that you can give a note, whether it's email, on a Post-it, in person, talk through it. Do you have to dance through it with them? Do you know that they're gonna barter with you, or do you know that they're gonna wanna give you notes for somebody else and then have to like be a filter for that as well? So it's learning how people work as well as how people perform. Every show has been different for me. I've swung 3 times and dance captained twice. The first show I ever swung was a Bronx Tale, and I was able to do stage right and just use my iPad, and everything was electronic and color coded. I would do it on the fly, and like I felt very organized with that, and like I'm very visual, so it's a lot of like different colors and stuff just to string thoughts together. But then Hamilton was such a beast. Like I started using stage right in my iPad the first day of rehearsal. Within the first 15 minutes, I like threw it on the floor and just picked up my pen and paper and ran around the room like a crazy person trying to get as much information as possible. So I think the way I record information and the way I hold information for each individual show is going to depend on what that show requires. And Hamilton is so specific that I have tracking sheets for every track in that show that you know, are like 8 to 10 pages long, some of them, most ensemble ones were, so that I have everything that person does from start to finish, because there's so much little detail in there that you need more than just spacing. You need traffic patterns and rules and different reversals and things like that. So I think it depends on the task that's at hand. So a swing is somebody who is basically an offstage understudy for all the ensemble members, or a certain amount of ensemble members in a show. When I was little, I remember seeing swing in every playbill of the Broadway shows I would go see and be like, oh, there's a character named Swing in this one too, and like not understand that it is just a position that is at every show. They're very much a backbone of all shows, and shows would collapse without swings and understudies. So a swing responsibility is to record all the information and be able to fill in for anybody at any given moment. It can happen mid-show, it happens during vacation weeks when people are off, it happens when people are sick. So there's a lot of different ways that you have to execute your job. Sometimes you know weeks in advance and you can prepare. Sometimes you're on day of for a track that you never thought you would do on stage. I was on for a female for 2 shows in Hamilton, and I never thought I would do that. And you know, lo and behold, I was on stage all of a sudden and flying by the seat of my pants. You need to be able to access information in a really efficient way and record it in an efficient way, and that's going to change. Every swing is different, and there's no correct way to do it. It's whatever is going to let you do your job the best. So tracking sheets are a way, which is just like a good old document that lists everything that you do, props, costume changes, where you do your costume changes backstage, your on-stage traffic, your, like, all the little details that are in there. Some people like to use charts with different apps, or just writing them out, that you can see the spacing visually and understand where you fit into the puzzle. And some people get super intricate with those and put traffic patterns in those, and some people just need to see formation A, formation B, and they know how they get there in their brain. Some people use videos, some people use index cards and have those backstage. I've seen so many different ways. I've seen somebody record, like handwrite half of their track maybe in a notebook and just have like keywords, but then perform like a pro. And they're not wrong for doing it that way. It's just how they process information. So it's gonna be a really individualized thing, but there are definitely tools that every swing is aware of that have helped people in the past and that are efficient enough to work. Being a swing is such a challenge, but it's such an honor. It is such a hard job, and not everybody is cut out for it. And 8 shows a week is a very hard challenge. So yes, it's nice on your body sometimes to not be in the show all nights a week, but the mental warfare that you have to go through as a swing, and the like fight or flight response that your body has on stage, and your ability to tap into information and to like be mathematical about performing is like really necessary to be a swing and to be a good swing. It's fun, it's a challenge, and at times it can be crushing but exhilarating. It can be beautiful and it can be horrible. It is like all things, because it does like take the thing that you love to do and challenge you to the like nth degree with what it requires. So being a swing is such an honor in any show, and it really does take a certain kind of person to do it and do it well. Hardest lesson I've learned in this business is probably to keep your eyes on your own paper. Everybody's path is going to be so different, especially when you start, you know, if you're going to auditions all the time, you're seeing the same people and you feel like you're in a class together almost, or like a grouping of people that then, you know, after a certain amount of time, someone's gonna pop off way quicker than another person, and your own personal journey is gonna be different than somebody else's. So understanding that your journey is gonna be very specific and probably not anything like you think it is so important. I did the out-of-town tryout of A Bronx Tale at Paper Mill Playhouse. It was my first big job out of college. I was 22. I did not transfer to the Broadway company, and people kept building it up for that year, and I thought it was gonna happen, and like I never took it for granted, and I always thought like, this might not. But it didn't happen, and if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have started teaching, I wouldn't have started choreographing as much. I don't think I would have done all the associate work I did, which then led me to getting my dance captain position at Hamilton. Like, it just all unfolded in such a perfect way. And sometimes we don't see how it unfolds for a very long time or ever, but more often than not, understanding your path is gonna be specific to only you, and you just have to trust that and just keep working, because when the opportunities fall into your lap, you have to be ready to seize them. So it doesn't mean just skate by and let things happen around you, but trust in that process and understand that it's not gonna look like anybody else's. So I have always choreographed in a weird way. Even before I danced, like I started dancing when I was 7 years old, and I remember being in my basement at 5 or 6, re-choreographing the numbers from my school's productions because I thought I could do them better. It's very telling. So there was always like an innate way I listened to music and a way I picked up on things. Early on I was very inspired by like MTV's Making the Video and seeing choreographers like Wade Robson or Brian Friedman doing their process, working with people. I just spoke that language, or that language made sense to me. And then as I got older and I started seeing more Broadway shows, and you know, I'm from New York, so I was lucky enough to come in all the time and see stuff. Like I remember seeing In the Heights, and Andy Blankenbuehler's work like just spoke to me and jumped off the stage at me. And the way he was storytelling and the way he was using movement to convey character and to just be super clear about focus and intention made sense to me. So I look at someone like Wade Robson or Andy, and when I look at my work, there's such an influence from them there that I'm proud to attribute to them, because I think seeing who they've been inspired by beforehand, like the Jerome Robbins and Fosse's and all that of the world, there's such a cool lineage in how art transforms. My choreography life definitely started super early, and it makes sense that it has continued to now. Okay, my favorite show to ever perform was definitely Hamilton, because the artistic integrity behind it was just so prevalent, and it was such an honor to feel like you're putting your best work out there, and it's challenging you to be your best and to deliver something that people love so much and have such a high expectation for. But every experience is so different. My 2 years out there on tour was so special, but equally as special was like a regional production of In the Heights that I did at the Fulton in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I met some brilliant people when we were all early in our careers, and so many of those people have jumped off to such huge heights now, not to use a pun. You're gonna have different colored glasses for each experience that you have. And that's like the beautiful thing about what we do, is that you take those with you and you learn from them and you cherish them.